All right, welcome to another edition of the show. Welcome back. It's 2019. I've got a lot of exciting things on the way, including our interview today with musician, entrepreneur Brian Byrne. And for me to just call him those two things is not even close to enough. The man has done a little bit of absolutely everything. I've always been a fan of him ever since he joined I, Mother Earth back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I've watched him and talked to him a couple of times during his career as it moved forward and went in so many different directions. Now he's working with blockchain and digital currencies and now different ways of rewarding through the music industry. And he'll talk about all of that. But it's super interesting to me. What I wanted to talk to him about was this blockchain and digital currency and how that works with the music industry or doesn't work with the music industry. And you'll find out it's been quite the adventure for him. And it's still, from what it seems to me, a bit of a Wild West as people try to figure out how blockchain can relate to music and how digital currency can work with music in the world as it is. So it's going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple of years where this type of digital currency goes. But right now, I want you to, if you can, stick around and listen to Brian's stories. He's a fantastic guy to listen to. He is super energetic, super passionate, and I really love the way that he operates. I love that he picks an avenue to go down based on his own interests, and then he throws all of his time, all of his passion into it, gives it the 100% college try, and then steps away from it if he needs to, or continue it if he doesn't. And I think he's got a really good way of doing things, and that's one thing I really dig about Brian. So without further ado, let's talk to Brian Byrne a little bit. I did want to mention we did have some technical audio issues with that. It's part of the problem when you do these interviews at such a great distance. So every once in a while you hear a little bit of crackling, a little bit of dropout. And I'm sorry for that. That's not your stereo. That's not your radio. Whatever you're listening to this through, you're not your phone, probably your phone. That's mine. I also want to point out, I hate the sound of my laugh on these things. It's my least favorite part of editing one of these podcasts. And he made me laugh several times. So I'm also sorry for that. Anyway, like I said before, without further ado, even though that was more ado, here's Brian Byrne. He's pretty awesome.
Welcome to Wander with Andrew Wilcox.
The list is incredible, extensive, and varied of what you do have done and what you are involved in. Musician, artist, entrepreneur, father, husband, adventurer, everything else, man. If you can give me a breakdown of your history of how you would relate it to people, what would that be?
Well, I in Newfoundland, and it's funny because Newfoundland's one of those places that really, I don't know if it's because we're isolated and there's a very big sense of community and family. But I think that, keeping yourself inspired and keeping busy is key to sort of getting through and either staying there and being productive or getting out and being productive, whatever, sort of suits you. So I kind of been involved in a lot of stuff. I think my very first sort of real true passion to pursue obviously was music. I started playing in bands. I was about 12 years old and did lots of wonderful covers by Bon Jovi and Poison and Metallica and all kinds of lovely stuff like that. And then moved into writing more, and then eventually becoming part of a band called I, Mother Earth. And then I had a few solo records, and I guess from there. It's kind of a strange. I'll try and make it like a sort of short and sweet, but it's a bit of a story. I had a fan of the band. Him and his brother used to come to all the shows, and he was a really good guy. And kind of met him a few times, and just kind of naturally befriended him. We just seemed like a good fit. We were born the same day, same month, same year. I mean, if you're into like sort of that cosmic stuff, then there's a reason why we relate it. And we started working on a project together that was actually based on the MMA community, a charity project. But not every project goes anywhere. But you have to approach everything like it might, like it's like, that's the one thing that I've always done is like, I'll grab something and I'll go and I'll run as far as I can down the road until it's like, okay, this is not going to happen. And then, pivot and go somewhere else. And through a bunch of conversation with him, he was getting involved in blockchain and cryptocurrency and owned the very first Bitcoin ATMs out of Toronto, and was forming a company called Decentral. Shortly thereafter, he became the co-founder of Ethereum, which of course is the one of the largest cryptocurrencies out there. We started talking about inefficiencies in industry and how blockchain specifically would help these inefficiencies. And he really kind of got me going down that rabbit hole. And then because of all that, I started looking around for ways that blockchain might help the music industry. Artists specifically in the beginning, but then that led me into a whole other thing. So when Anthony got me into Ethereum specifically, I accumulated a lot. I got into like mining cryptocurrency and all this other stuff, and it just kind of took on a life of itself from there. Then I would say my focus over the last maybe 4 or 5 years has been blockchain and technology as it relates to music, primarily in the music industry, and then sort of as I understood a little more, I used that knowledge to help other people see how that real world application might help them in their given industry or their business or whatever. So yeah.
So this is one thing for me that I feel it's one of those things that I went, okay, now I'm starting to feel left behind. I don't really have a full grasp on blockchain. So for anybody that doesn't, how does that work?
Okay, so the best and easiest way for me to explain it, and I think honestly, like anybody, like, one of the words blockchain and cryptocurrency is that everybody pretends they're an expert, and everybody talks about it like it's like, way over your head, right? They don't try and bring it back to earth and focus on the education side of things and making people feel very comfortable with it and understanding it, how it actually applies to them and what they're doing. Because if you can't properly convey that, then you'll have no adoption, right? It'll always remain this thing that everybody's scared to talk about and to know about, whatever. Meanwhile, it actually is incredibly beneficial. So I always, the one thing I bring it right back to, if you peel away everything and say, okay, what is blockchain and what does it do? It's transparent, it's global, it's borderless, and it's secure. So those things that sort of are blockchain and why blockchain is good, if you look at those points, those are things that can help just about anything. Now, there have been some crazy ideas that people say, well, why would you need it on blockchain? Can it be off chain? And this is like, this is where we get into that sort of debate, because as much as I am a huge believer in blockchain and its benefits, we know that like I said, blockchain, with those things being sort of the core of blockchain, what it does, it's it can pretty much help anybody or anything. Again, there are some industries or there are some people, some businesses that will never benefit from it because they're looking at it the wrong way, or perhaps they just don't need a blockchain solution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But certainly, for supply chain, like for food, for a lot of banks, any bank actually. These are the things where blockchain is a solid idea. If you can look at it again, it's transparent, borderless, global, and secure. So those things, right? If somebody, very very simply put, if you said to somebody, "Hey man, I'm going to send you that e-transfer," right?
Yeah.
And you are waiting for this e-transfer to hit your account, and you're like, "Man, that guy told me he was going to send it," and we think that, hey, I haven't sent it yet, but I'm going to. I have the best of intentions, right? This is a very basic idea, but if you did that on blockchain, like if you did it with Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, you can see that TX. You know that transaction has happened. Now listen, it might not hit your wallet immediately. Maybe it takes a day, maybe it takes a week, depending on how jammed up the chain gets. However, once you see that transaction has been made, it's hitting your wallet. So there's no questioning, right? So those things certainly help. And again, if you're traveling and you go from, you're from Canada or you're from the States and you go to India, you're in Nepal or whatever, if you have the ability to use cryptocurrency and change it, there's no worry that you have to take your money and change it into krona for Sweden or whatever, rubles. You know what I mean? There's none of that nonsense. So these are, again, these are really basic ideas where they can really help. And then you get into incredibly layered stuff, like even healthcare things on blockchain, information for like identity theft, protection, like a product. So yeah, so sorry. I again, Andrew, you have to forgive me because I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
And so if there's anything that is still not clear, or if it seems like I'm avoiding or being evasive or anything, please, I'm happy to talk about anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to get an understanding of blockchain, and then I want to know how it relates to musicians and getting more money directly to musicians. I think is kind of always the goal, is that right now with the music industry the way that it is, monetization and making a living in the music industry. And I think you're a great person to talk to about this because you've been a part of every aspect of the music industry in some way, shape, or form. I'm interested to how we can use things like blockchain and Bitcoin type ideas to help musicians. So that's really my question, and the big question in the end.
Okay. So I guess one of the things, like the neat thing about the internet, like the version that we know now before blockchain. Blockchain is basically just the new version of internet in a sense. And so the internet was the age of creating value, and the blockchain era is the era of being able to move that value around seamlessly and very efficiently. So one of the things that I will be, completely honest and transparent about is that when I started the very first blockchain project, so I was a part of a blockchain project called Musicoin, and Musicoin was the very first streaming platform, music streaming platform on blockchain. Very first live working one. There were other ones that were in development. Imogen Heap or Imogen Heap, whatever you want to, however you like to pronounce it. She's been such a wonderful ambassador of blockchain and in all its glory and how she creates music. So I won't say that we were first to the game, but we were first to get a fully operating, functioning platform up. And so the idea was we were going to base it on a fixed price. So one play would equal one music coin. Okay, which would be the goal was to have one music coin equal to 1 cent USD.
1 cent. Yeah.
So people didn't, people were like, oh, 1 cent. Well, why would we ever buy this? Because the price is never going to go up, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, because we wanted a stable coin that would be reflective of playing one song. Like, it would never, if that one music coin went from, 1 cent to $20,000, then the fractional bits that you would have to pay to listen would just be ridiculous, right? So the idea was it would be fixed to one play. Now, there are a lot of people that didn't understand that, and they bought like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of music coin. And we were very transparent. Like, look, you're buying on speculation. You don't care. All you want is to go 100,000, 10,000 times what you bought it for, which is fine, and I get it. But that's not the point of this project.
Yeah.
The point of the project was to fix it to that. And so every time you get played, like every time you click that play button on whatever artist it is, that would be automatically divisible into whoever was named in that smart contract. So if it was just you, 100% would go to you. If it was you and a couple people that you wrote with, or you and your bandmates, or you and your agent, or you and your manager, whatever that breakdown is in that smart contract, that's where that payment would go. To me, it was a really cool idea, and it was a really cool start, and they're still doing their thing.
Oh, I lost you. Yeah. No, we're good.
You still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one of the problems with that is that it was very much like rah, 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 the artist. And bear with me for 1 second. I'm that guy as well. I'm like 100% to the artist. We need to, we need to make more money and blah, 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 and I still believe that many artists are, treated pretty poorly, and they're undervalued, and I'll never say any different. On the other side of that, there are a lot of artists that internally have a lot of help. There are managers, there are agents, there are labels, whether they're major label or indie label, there are promoters, there are radio cats. There are a lot of people around, right, that actually assist in the development and ultimately the success of that artist. A lot of artists like to think they do it all on their own, but it's just not true, right? Yeah. So my problem with that was then there's some scalability issues, because we're really not giving any sort of tip of the hat or any acknowledgement to the rest of the people in the industry that make that successful, right?
No.
So then so we had one of the guys who was be that fixed price. We're going to get more into grants and universal basic income and these things. Really cool. I just knew that it wasn't for me. I wanted to move away from that. I wanted to get into other things where we could, have labels involved, good labels, so we could have promoters involved, just a little more robust, and maybe, kind of help and celebrate the other people who are talented and work hard, who might be underpaid or are not getting, what they should. So MusicCoin went on with Isaac, and myself and Dan and Elio and a few other people. We left that project and we started Musiconomy. Musiconomy was we did the raise as an ICO, and for anybody who doesn't know what that means, an initial coin offering. So you say you put up your white paper, what the whole idea is about, what you're going to do with the money, who's involved, your strategic partners, all that stuff, just like a business proposal that you would pitch to an investor with, like be it an angel investor or private equity or whatever it is. And you put that out, and then you block off your days, and you say, okay, on this date it starts, and it'll finish on this date, and we want to raise this much. And so we completed our ICO the last weekend of August. We did it over. It was 3 days, but it was about 3 hours a day. So about in 9 hours, we had raised 10 million US for Musiconomy, which is pretty thrilling.
Wow,
it was quite amazing. Yeah, but it was also, we were kind of at the tail end of the Wild West stuff, where SEC and OSC and all these people, the regulatory stuff was coming into play, which is a really good thing. And I'll never say any different, because we started to see, a lot of frauds being, being brought to light. People being more wary and saying, like, don't, these guys on this project, or, don't trust them, or, and there were other things, there were things that back these things up, so that it wasn't just, hey, these guys want to raise $100 million. Well, it's blockchain. We better throw money at it. You know what I mean? Because it's just not the case. We had a really good team. I think we had a good vision and a good roadmap. So I was happy that we were able to complete it. And then Music Economy was involved in the big parody wallet hack. I don't know if you guys if you've heard about that.
A little bit, yeah.
So there was about, I keep hearing different numbers, but I think the last one that I heard was most accurate, was probably 360 million in Ether that was locked up.
Yeah.
And we were affected by that. Luckily, we had some really good support. One of our investors is one of the biggest guys in space. So we were able to keep going and further develop the Music Economy platform. At that time, when we were, maybe last February of 2018, met a guy named Jerry Difer, and he was kind of helping us out with a few things at Music Economy, but he had this idea for a fan loyalty rewards app, and that had nothing to do with blockchain, absolutely nothing, completely separate from blockchain, just a rewards, fan-based reward system. And he had worked extensively in the music industry. He's from America, so he worked for Def Jam. He worked for Global Citizen. He's done a lot. He's been around, and he thought it was a great idea. So we thought, what, we really should run down this road, because while we develop all the blockchain stuff, there's still this massive gap between, again, that whole speculative nature and people just buying different cryptos because they think they're going to get rich, and the education part of it, where people actually know what it is, they know what the value is, they understand what the roadmap is, either for a blockchain or the currency that runs the blockchain, or whatever it is. So we decided what we would do is develop, this app. It was a different company. That's a different thing. But there were a couple of people from Music Economy Project that were sort of working on Fix as well. So I can get lost in this. It's a bit tangential, isn't it?
Keep going. I love it. I'm loving it and learning about it. It's good. I checked out the Fix app as well, and cool. I dig it. Yeah, I downloaded it and checked it out, and it integrates right with Spotify, and then shows me artists I dig and stuff that I could get. So I like that. Yeah. So that one in particular, that's kind of that's really blown up right now, to be honest. We launched about 8 weeks ago, and I had a lot of faith in the app. Like you said, it's it's a free app. You download it. It integrates with Spotify, Deezer, Last.fm, Tidal. So pretty much any music platform, open API, and so open their doors, and it'll be okay. But for right now, it integrates with those. So no matter what you're doing, you could be driving in your car and you listen to Spotify or Deezer or Laptop, any one of those, and you're collecting points. Also in the news feed, your socials are connected. So Facebook and Twitter, if you share any articles from Rolling Stone or anything like that, you get points. So there's 10 questions in music trivia, just listening to name that song. So you hear a little clip, you click on it, and you get points for that. So the idea is just to engage real,
true fans of music. And then those points accumulated, of course, they can redeem for rewards like merchandise, tickets, VIP packages, lift rides. So
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah. So, say, you're all at somebody's house and you're having a few pre-concert drinks. You're like, how are we getting there? No problem. I got the points. I'll get a lift ride and they'll take my points and off we go. So the roadmap is pretty sprawling and pretty intense, like over the next year or so. And it's, honestly, it's really truly the most exciting project I've ever been involved in, and I mean that. Like like every day is just something really neat. And we went from there was like 20 downloads, 30 downloads, and it was like 50, and it was 80 a day. And last week we were up around like 250, 300 a day, and we were like, wow, this is really cool. Great, let's keep pushing, let's keep going. And then all of a sudden we had a live picture of our active users in North America, and it was lit up everywhere, like all down through the States, all across Canada. And I'm completely floored. And literally after that day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week went 1,000,
wow.
2,000, 3,000, 3,000 plus a day. So it just kept going up and up and up. So, I mean, we're really, really hopeful. We've got a really good team, and working on some really neat things, and just gotta keep pushing along, man.
That's cool. Where do you think blockchain and these types of Bitcoins are going to fit into the music industry in the future?
Well, for distribution and transparency, it's like that's all I think that it has a very good, solid fit and a great argument for using that. It's like all of your back end. If you want to say like royalties for songs, like with SoCan and ASCAP and all those people, if they're on blockchain, at least you'll be able to know, okay, well, this is what's going on. Not calling somebody going, oh, well, no, we're not sure. I think we're just that type of antiquated, nonsense that we just sort of, muddle through, and we accept it because that has been exactly how things are done, right? But I think that, in the future, in the near future, it has a great place in music for artists knowing what they're being paid, when they're being paid, when that transaction happened, how they're, where their songwriting, like the breakdown, seeing it proper on an actual transparent, ledger. This is how it's all looking down. This is how it's all happening.
Wow.
And I mean, we've talked about the, having like a token. Musiconomy's idea was having a token that basically was for the entire music industry. So you could have, transportation, like, tour buses that were accepting Music Coin. You could have, studios. And we actually did a record with a studio that did that accepted Ether and Musiconomy tokens. So the idea is there, but again, the education really, really, really needs to ramp up and get everybody caught up so nobody feels like they're being lied to or they're being cheated against, especially with artists, man, because without sounding like the poor little complaining artist, because I've been very fortunate and I have no regrets about my career or any of the projects, and I'm very happy. But there are a lot of people that have really been hard done by in the industry. You hear it all the time, been taken advantage of. And because I think that essentially when you're at the prime of your life to be signed to a label, you don't really care how it happens. You just want it to happen so you can get on a bus and wear nice clothes and go tour. And hopefully, make a pile of money and live happily ever after. Unfortunately, time and time again, it's really not the case. And so again, that transparency where it's a trustless system, you don't need to trust somebody's word. You can see it. You know what's happening. You know what the value is. You know what you're getting. You know when it's coming. And again, maybe it doesn't land on your wallet on this particular day, but you can see it in queue. You know it's happening. So I think that it has a place and has a very important place in the music industry. I think that education is the biggest absolutely the biggest thing right now, and it's what we need to focus on to get people get their heads around it, understand what it is, even at a very basic level, so that it can be a trustless system, and not take somebody's word for it. And I think that the more we move into a situation where, we don't even know it's on blockchain, that's good too.
Yeah.
Like people always talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and Ether and, I bought this token. People, they don't necessarily want to know that. They want to know how it helps them, when it helps them, what the bottom line is. And if there's a little tiny thing down at the bottom that says like powered by, XYZ blockchain or powered by, Ethereum or whatever that is, however that comes about, it'll be, unfortunately, there'll be a lot of people sitting around and going, I heard about that blockchain stuff back in, 2000 and whenever, and I should have bought some whatever, but I didn't, like Google or Facebook or whatever. It's the same thing. And I don't, I don't think that every cryptocurrency has a place, nor do I think that everyone's going to be valuable. But I do think that blockchain as a technology is incredibly valuable. And people like HSBC and IBM and Walmart, even though they're massive, massive corporations that, some of us trust or some of us don't trust, the fact that they're on board and they've developed many things, I think that they're being really smart about it. Like it's really hard for massive companies to pivot that quickly. So you think about that. In the background, for years now, they've been going, this is coming and this is going to be a thing. So for years, they've been developing that. They're being really quiet about it. They're not pushing anything out, and then just all of a sudden you find out, they're doing this stuff. So, it's the big deal. I mean, the other part of it is that, the ethos of blockchain was for everything to be decentralized, right? To take the power away from big banks, to take the power away from all these large corporations and whatever. And while I think that it's a nice idea, that sort of that utopia that we're all going to live like that, it's just not realistic in the world that we live in, that's so connected by so many things now. It's really almost impossible. But that doesn't mean that we can't still develop really, really great, wonderful things that are sort of like fringe or niche on blockchain that are completely decentralized, because they exist and they will continue to exist for the people that love the ethos and philosophy of, being outside of the regular sort of world. So if you look at it like that, if you break it down into, two completely different compartments, the sort of the anarchist, decentralized, fuck the government, that idea, though, that's still going on, and those things are still being developed, and some of those things are being shut down as we speak, but that's the way it goes. And then on the other side, you've got all this, all these massive corporations that maybe, some of us trust and some of us don't trust, but they are using blockchain. So it shows that there is like a real true world adoption on an enterprise level and a very sort of basic, niche fringe level, and then almost everything in between. So I do believe that it's here to stay. And I mean, people can tell me I'm wrong. I'm certainly no expert. I hate to say that. I get invited to speak at things. I'm like, but I don't know anything. Like, I don't know what to, like I'm just going through this like everybody else. The one thing that I've never done is just pretend that I know everything about the currencies and how much they're going to be worth and speculate and all that kind of bullshit. Because quite honestly, that's like, you listen to some of these cats talk about cryptocurrency and, in Lambo this and Lambo that, it's priceless, because, they'd have a better time if they went to school and became an investment banker and they learned all of the stuff that goes along with it, and then start playing around with like traditional, stocks and day trading stuff as well as cryptocurrency. You know what I mean? Yeah,
having a diverse portfolio.
Yeah, and having a diverse knowledge base. You know what I mean? like know what you're talking about. Like if I don't know what I'm talking about, I say I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or can you please tell me, because I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean, because that's the point to me of this podcast is, for me, I like to talk about these types of things, and I like to ask the questions more than I give them the answers, because I hope it makes me smarter, and I hope it makes the listener smarter as well, or, diversifies their education in any type of idea, so that they have, it's just increasing knowledge, right? And sharing knowledge and sharing experience. So absolutely, I agree with that. And I think that's what we all need to do a little bit more sometimes. I think a lot of us, we all know those guys that aren't people that like to, act like they know everything, but none of us do, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all just here trying to figure it out. And the best way to do is explore all aspects of something. And I think that's what I find interesting about blockchain is we're a certain distance into it now that there's a fairly good public knowledge of the word, but there's not a lot of public knowledge of what it means. As I said, I don't have a great understanding yet. I have a better understanding now having talked to you. I agree with the pillars that you speak of, those completely make sense of things that we would want in any type of transaction and use of the internet. I think that as music is, as we talk about, music is a universal language. It's also a global language, so it needs to have a sort of global way of connecting everything to it and watching the path in which it moves. So blockchain to me makes sense to be connected to the music and the music industry in that sense. Does that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, especially, again, like for distribution, like I remember one of the first bands that we had on Musicoin, they were from Israel. And they were like this kind of like, not quite metal, but more like, active rock, like in America, what we consider active rock. So it's, kind of heavy, like Slipknotish, that kind of,
like a Godsmack kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, although I would say Slipknot is actually on the heavier side of that, so bad example, and I love Slipknot. But anyway, but it was just interesting because I would never have heard of them. They just knew about blockchain. We were doing a thing. They uploaded music, and then all of a sudden they're being listened to, all over the world, and being paid immediately for being listened to all over the world. So again, the very, very basic idea, is that, and blockchain is, sort of go back further, is a ledger. It's a transparent ledger of checks and balances. It basically, you can't hide anything, right? In that traditional way. So I just wanted to bring that back into that it is a ledger, right? But yeah, man, it's been an interesting a few years, that's for sure, 4 or 5 years. It's, if somebody had ever said to me that, in 2019 you'll be the owner of this tech company, and you'll be trying to find solutions for musicians, I'd be like, I guess it doesn't sound outside of the realm of something that I might want to do, but certainly I never thought I would be here doing this.
But like looking back at your history, man, you give anything a good shot. That's the way I'd look at it. You don't sort of just dabble in it. You give it a good shot. You give it the full 9. Oh, I've lost you again.
So are you there?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, like I think it's important. Like my dad was like that. Like if he was going to do something, he was going to go for it. It doesn't, and I don't mean like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. Because I've done tons of shit wrong, like tons. And my wife will tell you that I do tons of stuff wrong. But I think the difference is, like you said, giving it your all. And then when you really know that that's it, like you can't go any further, then accepting that and pivoting and moving on. And maybe maybe from that, it opens the next door, which opens the next door, which opens the next door. And I really do feel, not to get into the cosmic hippy side of things again, but I certainly feel that connectivity, it's not, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
And you either recognize the opportunity, or you recognize it as just some kind of like trouble in your life that you can't do. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. And I've never been able to live like that, because I'm so anxious all the time that if I didn't take the opportunity or the chance on something, I would forever torture myself that I didn't
regret
take
it.
the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm dumb, man.
I don't think so. I think you've done it right. I think the way that you explain it is perfect. Put everything into it so that when you walk away from something, if you have to walk away from something, you can walk away from it saying, I did everything I could for that. It didn't work. Time for a change. Keep going forward. And you're right in that each one of the things that you've done has sort of moved its way on to the next thing. Like it seems to me like a natural progression for you. Even though some of them may be so far different, music to MMA to blockchain to all of that. When you say it that way, it seems insane. But when you actually tell the story and connect it all, it's all connected. It's all there.
Yeah, like I feel like anything in the world that inspires me or I get passionate about, I want to get going with. Like I was consulting with a company. I am consulting with a company, and they initially they're an adult company, a porn company, and they wanted to do an ICO, like a crypto thing, and they were looking for advisors. And I threw my hat in the ring through a series of conversations and whatever. And all the people around me like, well, what are you doing? Why would you do this? You just want to do it because it's porn, blah, 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 and ha, 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 and you're a dirty Canadian or whatever. And I heard all of it. And I said, no, you don't understand. These guys are a tech company that have been together, almost the exact same team, like the core team, for 18 years.
Wow.
They were streaming video before anybody, like before YouTube, any of that. They the payment gateway solutions. They have a token that they're using for their websites. So they had kind of, to me, they had reverse engineered the whole idea of crypto, blockchain, and its speculation and the currency and all that stuff. They did it the way it should be done, where it says, here's a business. It's a really good business. It does well, and now we're going to port it over to blockchain because it's going to make it way better for our customers, our loyal customers. Instead of, I've got an idea, I'm going to write a white paper, I live in my mom's basement, I have no idea what I'm trying to do, I just raised $50 million, and we're going to tank because we have no infrastructure, right? And so to me, those guys were like the standout of like, if they can, kind of keep pushing and find solutions in blockchain, they'd be a great example of, a successful company in technology that recognizes its importance and can, help iron out the inefficiencies. And even the, anonymity side of things where, say if you're a dude and you're watching porn, but your wife doesn't like that you watch porn and you're putting it on your credit card. She's going, what's this after dark, video charge or whatever it is. If you had your tokens or your currency for the porn that you accumulated, then you just use that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to promote cats wanking porn, not telling their wives about the charges on their credit card. I'm just saying that there are many everyday uses for blockchain and cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. Be it payment gateways, just the anonymity for, stuff that maybe you don't want to share with everybody, those things.
Yeah. Huh. That's cool. Well, we're getting kind of near the end of our time together here. I did want to mention one project I just wanted to say to you I thought was really great was Arizona. I thought that was a beautiful song. I thought that was a beautiful video. I really loved that, so I wanted to tell you that. So for anybody listening who hasn't listened to the song Arizona and looked at the video, I definitely recommend checking that out. I thought that was incredibly, incredibly powerful what you did with that song. And one thing I always do at the end of an interview when I'm talking with somebody is I ask them, read, watch, and listen. Just give me a recommendation on something people should read, something they should watch, and something they should listen to. So what would you recommend for a read?
Oh, man. What? Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I'll tell you. The Daily Stoic.
The Daily Stoic.
Yes. And it's all it is it's a book. It's basically it's 1 page per each day, and you start whenever you buy it,
yeah,
whatever day you're on in the year, like February 21st or March 6th or whatever, you start there and you read it for 1 year, and it's generally like a little quote or a musing from a philosopher, and then sort of how it applies to maybe your daily whatever, and it's pretty incredible how it lines up. Like, I mean, I know you can read something and take anything away from it, but that one in particular is like every day you feel like it's really speaking to you.
Neat.
How's it going?
I'll check it out.
Are we a movie or series?
Anything.
Anything? I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I'm bad at this.
It could be training videos. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Right now, we're pretty into Shameless.
Yeah. That's a funny show.
I know lots of people they talk about they love that, but I can't get enough of Frank's character. He's just unbelievable. It's so amazing. Really made Macy is just a genius actor.
Absolutely.
And listen, I recently got into back in September when my wife and I moved to our new place. One night unpacking stuff. We didn't have the kids, and we had Spotify on. And because we were listening to something, of course, there was no suggestion made. It was a guy named Noah Gunderson. He's so good. He's got a few songs that were on Sons of Anarchy. And I never heard of him. Noah Gunderson for me is like my pick right now. I can barely I can't stop listening to him.
Well, thank you, Brian, very much for your time. Thanks for having a conversation with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to let you know, just whoever's listening, I actually have a new music project coming out, and I'm going to Vancouver to record first week of March. The band is called Bonds of Mara, and it's with Sal Costa from My Darkest Days, and Dave Benedict from Default, and Rich Bedeau from Finger 11.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of a neat lineup, and we're pretty excited about it.
Cool. So when do we expect to hear some music?
I'm not entirely sure. We're gonna go record first week of March, and we'd like to get something out as soon as possible. But we want to take our time with it. Feels good and feels right. So hopefully soon, but who knows?
Well, it's exciting. That's something to look forward to for sure.
All right, brother.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, man. We'll talk to you again soon.